contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, how safe are Ugandan innovators from piracy and other challenges connected to intellectual property rights? Innovators in Uganda continue to grapple with roadblocks such as piracy and a lack of support in protecting their patents, leading to a duplication and a situation where they are being cheated. The doctrine of intellectual property rights in Uganda remains a non-issue to many Ugandans, and as many continue to break the law and get away with it because they do not understand its boundaries and associated risks. In many developed countries, innovators are seen as the future, and governments do everything possible to protect and promote them, but also accord them protection to avoid their ideas being pirated. In Uganda, there are laws that are supposed to protect them, but it seems there's a laxity in implementation, an issue that has led to a general outcry, especially from performing artists. Now, the Uganda Services Registration Bureau, which is under the Office of the Registrar General, is mandated with handling some critical issues connected to intellectual property rights by implementing laws that deal with copyright. Tomorrow, Uganda will join the rest of the world to mark the World Intellectual Property Day, giving the country and all stakeholders an opportunity to reflect on the challenges and the opportunities that need to be exploited to increase innovation. So tonight on Spectrum, we reflect on this matter as we seek to understand the importance of intellectual property rights, the challenges being met, the legal regime, and the opportunities for innovation in Uganda. Our guests tonight, Ms. Juliet Nasuna, Director Intellectual Property Rights at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. You're most welcome, Madam Nasuna.
Thank you. Good evening, listeners.
I'm also joined by Mr. Vincent Katusi, Senior Registration Officer, Intellectual Property from the same office. You're most welcome, Mr. Katusi.
Thank you. Good evening, listeners.
And Mr. James Wasula is the General Secretary of the Uganda Performing Rights Society. You're most welcome, Mr. Wasula.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers and the listeners.
Viewers, because we're also on the internet, you can get a video of YouTube. We're also joined by Mr. Piracy, an advocate. He comes from the CP Law Advocates, and they specialize in intellectual properties. You're most welcome, Mr. Asimwe.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, viewers.
Madam Katusi, what is intellectual property?
Intellectual property is the creations of the mind, simply put.
Yes.
Creations of the mind, where someone will come up with an idea which is either beneficial to the society, or is enjoyable in terms of music, or is a piece of art. Someone comes up with a drawing which can be enjoyed by himself or by others who may want to enjoy viewing it or having it in their bedroom or sitting room, if it is a piece of art. Creations of that nature.
And how do we quantify it? Do we have a list for it? How do we quantify it? Give us some directions on that.
Quantification is kind of a tall order, but these are, for example, things that assist us to have life much easier than it would otherwise be without the creations. For instance, the microphones we are speaking to get to our listeners and viewers on YouTube are a result of creations of the mind. The pens we use to write are creations of the mind. The water which we have before us are ideas of some scientific innovation. So that is intellectual property.
Well, you must have a schedule. You could talk about music, you could talk about a hairstyle, maybe. Let's see some parameters.
Yeah, there are several categories of intellectual property. There are what we know as patents. These are inventions that involve science and technology, and these are really technological advancements for making our life easier in terms of medicine, in terms of plant varieties, in terms of inventions of mechanics, ICT. All the inventions in that area, including clips, are all a result of patents, are protected by patents.
All right.
Copyright covers artistic works, music, poems, sculptures, and works of that nature. We have designs. If you look at the shape of a car or the shape of a Nokia, the different versions that come out are a result of designs. These designs are normally the things we look at immediately, aesthetic designs, which attract us to buy initially. So we are looking at the artistic mind of someone, and that is also the work of intellectual property and is protected as such. We also have secrets. Many of us enjoy Coca-Cola. It's a formula which is secret. So trade secrets are also treated as intellectual property.
All right.
Just like trademarks. Trademarks are symbols, signs, which relate to goods or services in trade.
Mr. Wasula, could you broaden this our understanding on this for us, intellectual property as you understand it from your performing arts side?
Well, like Miss Juliet Nasuna said, the property that arises out of your creation is actually what is protected as intellectual property. In terms of music, when you reduce your musical works to material form, you get copyright in it. If it's an invention, as she said, the claims are the ones that give you the patent if they are new. For copyright, well, it is it must be original. For patents, it must be new, not having existed before. So these are the intellectual properties really that we're talking about.
Mr. Sima, could you explain to us some of these patents, copyrights, trademarks? These are words that are flying around. Some people might not be, very initiated into them. Could you decipher them for us?
Thank you, Edmond. I think the time is short to go into all the areas, but I'd really like to talk about three key ones, which most people would be familiar with. And Mr. Wasula has talked about copyright, and I don't want to dwell so much on that, but essentially copyright will protect all works that are creative in nature. They could be artistic works, and we're very familiar with things like artworks, batiks, different designs of baskets, designs of clothing, and so on and so forth. But it also, in the modern era, includes things like software and so on and so forth. The second one is the area of patents. Now, patents essentially, patents are a property right that is granted to an inventor, someone who has come up with something that was not anticipated by the existing body of knowledge or technologies. So let us say that you had something that you could ride which had two wheels, okay, and someone invents something that rides on one wheel, a unicycle, okay. That could be an invention to the extent that you can show that this new thing that you have come up with has an advantage over the other one which was in existence.
Yes.
So the government would grant you a protection over your invention to allow you as the innovator recover your investment in the research and development of that product and enable you for a certain period of time, in the case of Uganda for 15 years.
15 years?
Exactly.
To
protect your invention, commercialize it.
Copyright? What is
that is a patent, okay?
15 years.
Now after 15 years, it expires and anyone else can manufacture that without seeking permission from you. And the third one I wanted to talk about is really trademarks, which Ms. Nasuna talked about. Trademarks are particularly important in our segment because we tend to talk about the so many small businesses that we have in Uganda. Now, I think of the reasons why there's such a high mortality rate of our businesses is that product distinction is very, very weak. So if you cannot distinguish your product from the one of the other one, the life of your business is going to be short because you're all swimming in the same pool. You can't distinguish your products from the other one. And so the trademark system essentially comes to strengthen or to create value in the brand of that enterprise. And as the business grows, as it expands into different markets, it can be used as a tool for franchising and for other ways of commercializing the business.
All right.
So for now, I'll just talk about those three.
Okay, maybe Mr. Katusi can explain to us. Do we have a list of items in your office, pinned on the wall somewhere? You know, the kind of things that you can patent.
Patents, like
others that could come in tomorrow and patent a hairstyle.
A hairstyle? No. There's a criteria for every particular band of rights. Patents, like earlier said, they are technological innovations, that come and solve a particular problem. Okay, they should be industrially applicable.
They should be
not industrially applicable.
Yes.
Not in terms of industry as factory and machinery, but things like agriculture. They should be applicable in our day-to-day kind of existence.
Right.
Okay. So if you come up with something like that, which is novel, okay, which hasn't been anticipated by prior art, something that has not been existing yet comes in to solve a big problem, okay, and is applicable in a way of life, okay, you talk of a patent. So there's no clear-cut, cut and paste list of things which can be patented, okay. Of course, the law excludes certain kinds of inventions from patentability for various reasons, okay, but generally anything that is new, is industrially applicable, can be patented, save for those which are expressly excluded by the laws.
Let's look at some of the things that are patented, not just here but elsewhere as well. Pharmaceuticals, give us a list there.
Pharmaceuticals, yes. Drugs are patentable. Yeah, you can patent a drug.
Bottle shapes, Coca-Cola bottles, for instance, I think they're patented. You can't have another bottle like that.
We need to differentiate the kind of intellectual property we're talking about here.
Yes.
Patents for technological innovations, okay? Trademarks for names, shapes of particular products, okay? Designs for designs of products, bottles, cars, Benz lights, like you're saying, okay? Copyright, artistic literary works. So it is very important to use a particular language for a particular set of intellectual properties, okay? So for patents, we're talking about technological innovations only. So it will be wrong for you to say patents and then yet you refer to Coca-Cola and things like that.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, how safe are Ugandan innovators from piracy and other challenges connected to intellectual property rights? You'll be able to call in at some stage and contribute to this discussion. Madam Nasuna, are our laws adequate to protect innovation?
For the major areas of intellectual property, save for one, they are adequate. Because we have a Patents Act with amendments. We have a Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act, which is quite recent, 2006. We have a Trademarks Act, 2010. So we have those. What we are lacking is the law on designs.
Law on designs?
Yes, the law on industrial designs. We're still relying on the colonial legal regime, which says that we can only protect designs that are from the UK.
Oh.
But that also will soon be history, because we have an industrial property bill, which should be law anytime this year.
An industrial property bill?
Industrial property bill caters for, well, it will be repealing the current Patent Act, but it will also be covering industrial designs in full and smaller patents, which are called utility models, and these are very key for us small and medium enterprises, for the Katwe of this world, where smaller additional innovations can be allowed protection.
Smaller additional innovations?
Yes.
So you can improve something and patent it?
Yes. And if it doesn't qualify as a patent, it can be treated as a lesser patent, and that is what's known as a utility model.
How many years do you get for that?
7.
7 years. That's half of the other half a lot. There was a time there was a battle between two beer companies. One had a bottle shape and they wanted to patent it. They lost it. The other companies began to bottle their drinks in the same bottle. How do you contextualize that for us? Is it because of that old unique law?
It really depends on how you decide to look at it, to their portfolio and the advisor they have. But it can be either a three-dimensional trademark or a design. What I'm not conversant with are the facts to be able to comment on the details.
What's a three-dimensional design?
A three-dimensional design would be like a shape.
Yes.
But which can go either, which can be a design or a trademark.
Yes.
So that is its shape. It's not like cut out like a symbol or a name or a word. So it's in a form of
It's
a
replicated
shape.
in your product.
Yeah.
Mr. Wasula, are you satisfied with the way these things run? You come from the performing rights. What kind of troubles do you come across? The gaps they haven't plugged?
Well, the challenges basically are in implementation of the law. The law is quite adequate.
Oh, you're satisfied with the law?
To a certain extent, yes. I would largely yes. It's okay, but implementation is still a challenge. Why? Because the history of the country, we didn't have an effective law for over 40 years. And everybody was doing what they want. We all photocopy books, and we get away with it. So we are so used to photocopying, and now that there is a copyright law which does not permit such kind of photocopying, it's very difficult to get people quickly to change the mindset. Similarly with music, everybody has been duplicating music left, right and center with impunity. So in 5 years to change the mindset is not quite easy. So that's the biggest challenge we are having. And then of course there is an artificial fear that if the law is enforced, it will affect the multitude of people on the streets
who are getting employment.
So-called, but it's theft, it's not employment.
Well, somebody said the other day, and I won't mention the name, he said if you're playing on a football field and your teammate handles the ball, you don't mention it. Maybe that's what we should do. If they're copying from abroad, we forget about it. Following on that advice.
No, it's not like that. What is happening is that these fellows on the streets duplicating our music, for example, can remain in their employment, in that employment, when it is formalized, and they become distributors or tail-end retailers. So what will then happen will be the streamlining of the distribution chain. So really, these are the bottlenecks that we are encountering in enforcement of the copyright law at the moment. But generally, the law is fair.
It's in place. So why don't you implement it? You're having mercy on these men and women.
Yeah, then there is...
Or maybe you're already making enough money, it doesn't matter.
No, we are not making any money. As a matter of fact, we have lost renowned distributors like Kasiukia who have closed shop because they cannot compete with pirates. That's, of course, a setback, a big setback. Our musicians used to assign their reproduction rights to these publishers and get as much as 50 million shillings, which today they can't get. I will tell you, the recent album released by Chameleon, Valu, is not published by anybody. No one wants to touch it, yet it's very good music.
Why?
Who is going to compete with pirates? No businessman will invest. I'll tell you, you know Green Boat, and everybody knows them for parking.
Yes.
But they came to this country in the
Green Boat Entertainment.
Yeah, in the music industry. They wanted to set up a recording factory.
They used to entertain men by clamping them.
They ended up in parking business because they wouldn't compete with the pirates. So it is a serious matter, and whereas it affects us so much, it affects government much more. We lose a lot of revenue in tax revenue that is not collected. Broadcasters like Radio 1 are supposed to get copyright licenses
to play music from the artists.
And it's only a handful of radio stations that are complying. Fortunately, Radio 1 is one of those complying.
Go on.
So, so basically, government is losing a lot of tax revenue because of non-enforcement of the Copyright Act.
Can I kindly interject just a minute?
Please do, and tell us why.
I just wanted to point out one thing, that the government may be losing, but I think the bigger picture actually is that the creative people in this country are suffering even more. And the reason is that the intellectual property system is not like a standalone kind of system. It is premised on innovation and creativity. So if you are creative, you are rewarded by the system. The system gives you a monopoly for a certain limited duration of time, within which you market your product, okay, recoup, employ other people throughout the whole distribution cycle. Now, in the absence of that, you get these middle people who invest zero in the creativity chain, okay, in the innovation chain, and there you have a problem. Now, the government needs to move away from all of us growing mangoes and cassava, okay, to realizing that as we move to a knowledge economy, okay, we need to incentivize these people who are creative, okay. It could be musicians, it could be software designers, it could be people who are innovative in other areas. Otherwise, what you're going to have is a country which is selling oil with zero value addition, selling selling mangoes, exporting gonja and so on. Now, those are not bad, so to speak. But the truth is that we are going to remain in the 19th century economy,
while other people move forward.
Commodity economy, while others move forward. And I think that is unfortunate.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're going for a break. We'll be back to stay tuned.
Let the sunlight in.
Good morning, sunshine of my life. You look happy today.
I am. I came in here and I saw there was a whole pile of washing to do.
But I felt you didn't like doing the washing.
No, I love it. Anything else you need washed?
Sunlight 2-in-1 with added fabric softener smells so good you want to use it again and again.
Let the sunlight in.
Sunlight 2-in-1. Sunlight clean, sunlight fresh.
Sunlight in. Happiness is all around. Let the sunlight in.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special.
You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
When Junior lost his appetite, his mother tried all methods to get him to eat. She tried scary stories.
Eat, Tommy, eat, or the big black elephant will come and eat all your food.
She tried magic.
Tommy, if you eat your food, I will turn this handkerchief into sweet. Look, bumble, bumble, boom, boom.
Then she discovered Apetol multivitamin syrup with lysine.
Mommy, I finished all the food. I am number 1.
Apetol multivitamin with lysine is helping mothers to turn mealtime frustration to a fun moment. Apetol has a great taste and contains lysine, which quickly improves your child's appetite and supports healthy growth. Apetol, help for life.
Accept no substitutes.
Radio 1, FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. How safe are Ugandan innovators from piracy and other challenges connected to intellectual property rights? Our guests tonight, Ms. Juliet Nasuna, Director, Intellectual Property Rights at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, Mr. Vincent Katusi, Senior Registration Officer, Intellectual Property from the same office, and Mr. James Wasula, General Secretary of the Uganda Performing Rights Society, and Mr. Paul Simon, Advocate, specializing in intellectual properties. He comes from the CP Law Advocates. You two will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Katusi, what's the process of registration of a patent? A good one.
A patent?
Yes, one that qualifies. Well, you could take us through all these copyrights, trademarks. Okay. To some of us.
First of all, you must conform with the requirements of the law under the Patent Act. Now, as we talk today, you have a patent. There's a need to make an application which has a description. It sets down the claims. First of all, like as earlier said, a parent is a grant by government to you. It's a grant of rights to you. Okay, so you make an application seeking for these rights, in which you put a description, you put drawings, okay, you put claims, what you're claiming to be adding onto the existing kind of knowledge that is pertaining today. And then there are other, now these are more specific requirements of sizes and number of copies and things like that. So when all that is done, you make payment for application fees. Uganda today, we have an arrangement under the African Regional Intellectual Property Arrangement where you would send your applications for examination.
Yes.
And they are examined according to the criteria I talked about earlier. You know, the inventive step, the novelty, industrially applicable, kind of arrangement. Now, when they are ascertained as indeed new, industrially applicable, then they are sent back to the national office.
Yes.
And then the national office now gives the grant. The government now gives the grant, which is called a patent, protecting you for the time as we talked about.
Let's talk about a book or music, a piece of music.
A piece of music is copyright. Copyright under our laws today is automatic. The moment you fix something, like Mr. Wasula said, you have copyright.
Okay. So if I invent a good song tomorrow, I'm not a musician, but if I became one overnight, it's automatic.
I doubt whether you call it an invention, but it would be an innovation kind of thing. So you'll have come up with a new song. The moment you fix it, CD, writing the lyrics and things, you have copyright.
Right.
Okay. Today the legal regime
kind of self-patenting. It's automatic.
Copyright is copyright.
The mechanism of recognition is automatic.
Yes.
The thing though is that under the 2006 Copyright Act, there is an option to register, which is not common in many jurisdictions. And why that is very important is that if sleeping in your bed you create that song of yours, and then almost simultaneously your girlfriend 100 miles away creates the same song, and then you meet for breakfast and you want to surprise her and sing the song to her, and she tells you, now who actually determines who actually owns that? And that's why the registration system becomes helpful, particularly at the enforcement stage. So it's not mandatory, but we tend to encourage people to register for purposes of helping in dispute settlement.
That's remarkable. Madam Nasuna, what's the practice? What kind of people walk into your office asking for these things?
The business community, also, so people, scientists, the dons at Makere, the ordinary...
To copyright their books.
Yeah, not only books, inventions. There is there are professors who have come up with some inventions.
Yes. Let's talk about that vehicle called
inventions.
Was it patented? I was told the first thing they did is reinvent the wheel, and then they surrounded it with a car. Did it get patented? Talk to us about that.
I don't want to talk about that kind in particular, but what I would say is general in that. Remember when we were talking about the classes of intellectual property, we talked about designs.
Yes.
You cannot claim to invent a canal, but you can design one.
Not even a wheel.
If you do show that there is addition to the existing knowledge, sure, why not? It can be patented. But the kind of people who work in are businessmen, including...
What do they patent, the businessmen?
The businessmen, they are not patenting. They are coming in to either register trademarks for their products.
Business names.
That is one thing. Then the other one is to register licenses. Because this is, I have to mention this because it's very key.
Yes.
If you cannot maybe invent, you can buy from the one who already has created,
right,
or has a market out there, which is a known brand, a known product, and you go talk to them, you negotiate, and then you get a license. So there you have user rights. So those kind of people walk into our office and they apply.
And a business concept, there's a time people began to do hair salons, and everybody did hair salons. Fast food restaurants, chips and chicken, everybody did that. You can't protect those kind of things. You pick it from somewhere
else. You are
else.
not talking about protecting those kind of things. You are talking about distinguishing my service
between
from
another man's.
Your service, yes.
All right. Mr. Wasula, most performing artists, it seems, in this country are not registering. What's your rating of their level of registration? Do they come to you? Do they belong to your group?
Well, that is a very interesting question, because how can you say the majority or many of them? How many are they? you have to establish a figure and then say most of them have not. But I doubt whether anybody has a figure. But as of today, Uganda Performing Rights Society has a membership of about it's getting to about 2,000 now. So really, that's a very huge figure. When I was in one of our meetings, I mentioned that at the time we had about 1,000 people, musicians. The delegation from ASCAP, the American Society, was like, 1,000? That's a lot of people.
Right.
So you can imagine the whole of the United States getting scared by 1,000 musicians.
So you're doing very well.
I don't know. I don't know the total number of
the US, which is large
compared to US, yes.
And of course, you crossed over from banking. You used to work with Semble Investment.
No, that's my elder brother.
That's your elder brother.
Yes.
Remarkable. Mr. Sima, talk to us about.
I think the membership in the US would probably be corporate membership.
Corporate membership.
Exactly. So you have performing groups or really incorporated players, as opposed to here where you have individual members. So I guess that is probably
no. Even in America, they are individual members. You see, copyright is per capita. It's password holder, so you can't register like a corporate organization. You register as individuals. Probably what you would say is that they
well, the holders of the assignments could still essentially be members of the collecting society.
Okay, Mr. Sima, can you tell us a little bit what the dangers are of not protecting innovation for any given society?
I think I'll just share one probably live example in this case. There's a colleague of mine who was trying to register a trademark covering, for now, I will say fruit juice, okay, in a neighboring country. And when he went to register that trademark, he found that another multinational had already registered that trademark. Now, that other multinational was actually not intending to use the trademark to protect fruit juices and similar products. They were just using it as an instrument to block market entry of any other players using that trademark. Now, one of the things that I'm saying this is that I really would like the government, particularly people in positions of authority, who are so keen on increasing the level of exports of this country, to think very seriously about this. A product that is brandless, so to speak, is valueless. It is going to go out there, it will be ripped off, people will counterfeit it, it is useless. So the country needs to come up with a strategy that as you are actually exporting this product, you need to target the export market and ensure that you have registered your trademarks appropriately. And if we do not do that, actually we are going to end up in the same situation that my colleague's client went through. The other thing that we need to be alive to is the fact that, particularly in East Africa, we have this common market. Now, the common market essentially means that products can move from Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania with limited or no restriction. Okay?
Yes.
Now, if you have a product called Splash, okay, or a product called,
whatever,
Sportsman, okay, and it is registered in this jurisdiction, okay. The problem is that if you don't quickly register that same brand across the border, although technically speaking the customs union entitles you to sell in all these markets, intellectual property law still retains one principle, that intellectual property rights are territorial in nature, in the sense that you still have to protect that in Rwanda, in Tanzania. So what your competitor will do, he will quickly go and register Sportsman, and he will just sit on the fence, and what will happen is that he is entitled to get an injunction preventing you from bringing those products into his market.
Then you call him to negotiate and he asks for a lot of money.
Exactly. So we need to be very alive to that.
All right, Mr. Katusi, Katusi, can you talk to us about counterfeits? Do you have a big problem there?
Counterfeits. These they are quite an issue today as we talk, and actually there's even the anti-counterfeit bill which is being debated in Parliament. Counterfeits are being a big problem. These are fakes, they are duplicates, they are things done by people intentionally to pass off their products as though they were products of some other person.
Yes.
Imagine, borrowing from a Simway's explanation, imagine if humans had no names.
Yes.
Imagine if you had no name. All your good deeds would probably go to me because they would say, hey, that person. Okay? So, similar with counterfeits. You make a product like this, what we're having, ripples. Okay? You make your product, and then somebody comes and uses the same word, minus a single P, and then puts the blue colors and sells them out. You know, they are ripping off the trademark, the right owners. They are selling sometimes, to an extent, substandard products to us, the consumers, unknowingly. Because Ugandans, by our nature, we're not that sophisticated in terms of education. So a villager, person in the village, my grandmothers, my wife, they will go and buy things by what they see.
The look.
Now, if you keep copying people's looks and put them in the market, we have a very, very big problem. Talk about medicines. You have had times when police is arresting people with medicines, they put chalk instead of actual Panadol. They are healthy hazards. Look at food products. So counterfeits indeed are a big problem. Piracy, Mr. Wasula told you how much money is lost every day. I mean, these are all forms of counterfeiting. So indeed, we have a very live problem of counterfeiting in as much as the government is doing its best to combat it.
Well, listeners, you can call in now. Our numbers, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Our numbers 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. And tonight we're talking about asking the question, how safe are Ugandan innovators from piracy and other challenges connected to intellectual property rights? And you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Mr. Asim, what kind of complaints do you normally receive in your chambers?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I don't get complaints. But the kind of people that I actually tend to deal with, largely people want to register their trademarks to protect their brands in this market. But I also get to advise increasingly a number of young innovators, particularly in the people who develop new software applications, and they want to determine not only the intellectual property but the commercial aspects around the innovation. If you have this innovation and you're walking to Edmond, who is a big tycoon in town, you want financing to be able to scale that product up to the market. How do you deal with this person? And so those are the kind of people that we speak to on a fairly regular basis.
So someone comes to you, says, I've invented something, but I need money to industrialize it.
Yeah, sometimes, well, the other element that is kind of contiguous to intellectual property is licensing. And I think part of the problem that we have here with some of the people who have patents, the few people who have patents, is that they have not been able to commercialize their technologies. Yes. And it is useless, obviously, to come up with this innovation if it can't see the light of day. So licensing essentially means giving permissions to other people to lawfully use the product, okay, to commercialize it, so to speak. So if you have a patent for example, a flour process, you want to convert cassava from its normal state to a flour that is probably stable under certain conditions, or it is a pre-cooked cassava flour, then you have to ask yourself the question, can I afford to manufacture? Do I have the resources to manufacture? If you do not have, it makes sense to give Edmond the permission to manufacture, and he can then give you a royalty. A royalty is like a fee for using your technology, and that way you're a winner.
All right.
Yeah.
Spectrum, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Your name? Get the response to that. Well, you can still call in our number 041-4348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. Madam.
What I would tell Juma is, first of all, I would tell Juma that for us, our mandate is to register if he so wishes.
Okay.
Katusi is a book publisher.
Let's take another caller, then we put them together. Spectrum, hello? Yes. Yes, Peter Mboga Mjia, you're welcome. Alright, Spectrum, hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir, your name?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, your name again?
My name is Emma. My question is
Spectrum, hello?
hello.
Yes, Samia.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the studio. Madam Nasuna.
Like I was saying about Juma and books, we earlier on explained that when you create and fix in a material form, a permanent format, you have copyright. And apparently, copyright are private rights, rights of the owner. And really the duty is on the owner to ensure that enforcement is done. Yes, when you find out, then you flag, because what we have done is that we assisted government in coming up with the law. It is in place. We came up with the regulations, in which was a participatory process. Now, what we have to tell Juma, and then the third thing I can tell you is that copyright enforcement is usually done through collective management. And we have been talking to the book writers and some publishers. And a Uganda Reprographic Rights Organization is in the process of being formed.
Uganda Reprographic
Rights Organization, which will be the collecting society for book publishers and writers. So that way, if people like Juma sign up with Euro, then the Euro will take up that responsibility of ensuring that piracy in books and articles and written material, literary works, is protected, just like Mr. Wasula has the responsibility of doing the same for musicians.
Alright, so the way to go is forming these societies.
Yes.
Alright, Mr. Katusi, maybe you can tell us the difference between UNBS and URSB.
UNBS and URSB. UNBS is the Bureau of Standards. Their mission is to emphasize standards. What products are coming into Uganda, do they meet the standards for our consumers? That is key. URSB, on the other hand, protects intellectual property, which are private rights. And that, I want to add on what my director just said. The government puts in place a legal framework. It puts in place a mechanism of enforcement. It gives us a niche to enforce the rights. But who is the whistleblower? It's the right person. So Mr. Juma and his book, if he realizes his book is being tampered with by other people, his copyright is being infringed, it's upon him to come to us, okay, and make some noise. When he makes some noise, then we will begin action. But we cannot wake up one morning and say, let's go and see if Juma's book is safe, when Juma is not bothered. You see, that's the arrangement. So UNBS, standards, URSB, registration of intellectual properties and the enforcement.
Emma's asked about Nivea and other things, toothpaste and shoe polishes. We don't allow the reference since they don't come from here, do we?
No, we do to an extent. We register,
how do we protect them? They don't belong here.
We register both foreign and local marks. But Nivea and that other one, I think there is an ongoing matter before our office. An opposition to an application, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to discuss.
But you can't come in without someone warning you, can you?
To a little extent, yes. But there has to be a whistleblower. Yeah. The mechanism has an institution called inspectors who go around inspecting what is going right, what's going wrong. Of course, at the end of the day, intellectual property enforcement and infringement carries an element of criminality, which is a public
yeah,
exactly. So that at that extent we come in. But to the extent of the civil right, having a private right as an individual, that should be the person, the owner of the right to whistleblow, and then the decision comes into play. Like the old saying used to be, help the police to help you. You help us to identify who is infringing on your product, and then we help you to solve the problem.
Well, but Nivea is not represented here, the only trade.
You can't be so certain. There is an application, like I said, it would be wrong.
It's only an example. If there's a company that's in China, they only trade here, they don't manufacture, they don't have an agent.
Yeah.
They only have, small agents who trade. And they might not have the infrastructure to complain. Would they be protected by Europe?
Let me say this, Edmond. Intellectual property rights are private rights, okay? Very similar to land, okay? If you have your land somewhere in Wasula, okay? You can't expect the RDC to be seated there, ensuring that no one is going to farm your land. He does not know what permissions you're giving other people and so on. So to that extent, the public needs to know that intellectual property rights are private rights. Okay, if they are infringed, the first thing is you must, as the owner, you must seek legal counsel. Okay, if you can't afford it, as they say, the court will afford you one. Okay, but the thing is that we should move away from this view that if you own a book and it is infringed, you go to URSB. URSB is a registration institution. It is not an enforcement institution. And so you have to go to court. And in one way or another, you could seek legal aid, but you need to know that if it is an enforcement, you have two ways. You could either sue or you could file a criminal complaint. If the law in question, like the Copyright Act, has criminal provisions, then the state may come in, okay? But there are certain limitations. You may not be able to get damages, which you would get if you bring a civil suit. So those are the slight differences that people out there may want to know. And the other thing is that if the Chinese company is not here, the law works really on the basis that if you have something important or valuable, you're going to protect it. So what about the Ugandan small businessman who has exported his coffee to Europe and he has protected his trademark there, but he has no other presence? So it means that you must invest in a presence. Right. You could have an agent or someone like that.
All right, Mr. Wasula, can you give us your general response? What are some of the gaps that these gentlemen and lady can plug in their offices for you?
Basically, it's...
you mentioned Valu. Is that the right pronunciation for chameleon song, which you can't parent or something?
Yeah, that's the title.
Give us some background to it. Explain to us what that means and the ramifications for other people.
What exactly?
Valu, you said...
No, I don't know the meaning of the word Valu.
No, why he can't...
why he can't have it published? It's because publishers are businessmen. And... because of the rampant piracy all over the place, nobody is going to invest money into publishing a song which is everywhere. on the market.
But other people have got promoters. Why can't he get one for this one? He's probably got others before.
No. When I say publishing, I mean putting the album on market officially.
Yes.
It's not on the market officially. You just walk into a kiosk and they ban you a CD and you go. Chameleon doesn't pick a shilling.
But how does it? It's been working for other people apparently.
No, not lately. It hasn't. That's the challenge we have.
So he's trying to break the ice, basically, trying to penetrate, to explain to us.
This program is helping us actually to reinvigorate the industry. We are trying to make sure that copyright is observed.
Yes.
And if it is observed, that means we are going to go back to the times where the publishers are going to pick interest and invest in the sector. Otherwise, without protection, nobody can invest their money into the sector where everybody can
just walk in
and yeah.
All right, we have to end here. Thank you very much, dear guests. Miss Juliet Nasuna, Director, Intellectual Property Rights at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Thank you for coming, Spectrum, Madam. Mr. Vincent Katusi, Senior Registration Officer, Intellectual Property at the same office. Thank you for coming to Spectrum tonight. Mr. James Wasula, General Secretary of the Uganda Performing Rights Society. He needs no introduction to the performing artists, I believe. Thank you for coming tonight. And Mr. Paula Simwe, CP Law Advocate, specializing in intellectual property. That's a unique place, an esoteric field. Thank you for coming to Spectrum.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Kizito. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
Everybody is a star, but some stars shine.